Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen. Anyways, I just quickly wanna these are actually slides that I've lost that I managed to find again yesterday night. Okay, so these slides I'll also upload for you guys. It's 3 different slides, and then I will also upload additional notes, just PDF documents for additional content that you can go through. Okay, so I'm going to start with this slide for today again. So if there's things that we already covered in yesterday's lesson, I'll just skip that. But this slide that I have here is a bit more in detail. Okay. Okay, so we'll quickly look at the court and equipment. So the playing court shall have a flat, hard surface free from obstructions with dimensions of 28 meters in length by 15 meters in width, measured from the inner edge of the boundary line. Okay, so it's 28 meters long and then 15 meters wide. Then the backcourt, a team's backcourt consists of its team's own basket, the inbound parts of the backboard, and that part of the playing court limited by the end line behind their own basket, the sidelines, and the center line. So pretty much on your side or the one team side, the half of the court and all its boundary lines is what backcourt means. So every time we talk about backcourt, that is basically what it means. Okay, so it's usually the defensive, or not the defensive, your team's side of the court. So it's the side of the court that you are defending. Okay, and then we have front court. The team's front court consists of the opponent's basket, so it's just the opposite. The inbound parts of the backboard, and that part of the playing court limited by the end line behind the opponent's basket, the sidelines, and the inner edge of the center line nearest to the opponent's basket. Okay, so these are just some of the these are possible simple questions on how to describe different things. So if I ask you what a backcourt is, you need to explain it in that way. A front court, you need to explain it in that way. So it's pretty basic. Okay, and then all lines shall be drawn in white color. It's 5 centimeters in width and clear. It must be clearly visible. Just like that. Okay, and then the boundary line, the playing court shall be limited by the boundary line, consisting of the end lines and the sidelines. These lines are not part of the playing court. Okay, then our center line, center circle, and free throw semicircles. The center line shall be marked parallel to the end lines from the midpoint of the sidelines. It shall extend 0.15 meters beyond each sideline, and then the center line is part of the backcourt. Okay, so so it's included. The center line is included in part of as the description of a backcourt. Okay, you'll see in the front court they said just before the center line. That's where your front court starts. And then we have our free throw lines, restricted areas, and free throw rebound places. The free throw line shall be drawn parallel to each end line. It shall have its furthest edge at 5.8 meters from the inner edge of the end line and shall be 3.6 meters long. Its midpoint shall lie on the imaginary line joining the midpoint of the two end lines. Okay, so if you read these things, it sounds confusing, but as soon as we add the diagram, then obviously it's going to be much more easier to understand. Okay, so this would, for instance, be descriptive of a court layout. So if I, or if you possibly get a question, just give me a moment so I can plug in my charger here. So if you get a question about maybe describing the layout of a basketball court, then I would expect you to at least know how to describe all the markings on a basketball court. Okay, then our three-point line or field goal area. Team's three-point field goal area shall be the entire floor area of the playing court, except for the area near the opponent's basket, limited and including the two parallel lines extending from and perpendicular to the end line. An arc of that has a radius of 6.75 meters measured from the point on the floor beneath the exact center of the opponent's basket to the outer edge of the arc. So that is our three-point line, and obviously with a three-point line, it's very descriptive. If you score from behind the three-point line, it obviously counts 3 points. Okay, and then our throw-in lines. The two lines of 0.15 meters in length shall be marked outside the playing court at the sideline opposite the scorer's table, with the outer edge of the lines, which is about 8.3 meters from the inner edge of the nearest end line. Okay, and then we have the no charge semicircle areas. These shall be marked on the playing court, limited by a semicircle with a radius of 1.25 meters. And then also two parallel lines perpendicular to the end line, the inner edge, which is 1.25 meters from the point on the floor beneath the exact center of the basket. Okay, so this might seem like a lot of things that you need to remember, okay? But it's better to at least get the distances or the measurements once you look at the court layout itself. Okay, so this is pretty much how a basketball court would look like with all its markings. So this is obviously your center circle over here, and then we have this big one that runs around the hoop is our three-point line. So anywhere, if you score a basket from anywhere in this yellow area, then that would obviously be 3 points. Okay, and then this area over here is what we spoke about yesterday. It's the key, because it looks like a keyhole. Okay, or you can call it a paint or a lane. And then over here we have our free throw line. Okay, and then it's decked by a semicircle. Okay, and what did I miss? So obviously that will be your basket and the backboard over there. And then I think on the next slide we look at the measurements. Yes. Okay, so on this slide they show you the exact measurements. So you can see the sideline over here is 28 meters, and then obviously the width is 17 meters, and then you also have your baseline, or you can call it the end line, which is this line and that line over there. Okay, so if I ask you, okay, probably if we wrote exams face to face, who knows, maybe we will write face to face. So if I ask you to draw a sketch of a basketball court, you will pretty much draw it like this, and then you'll always add a description for each boundary line and semicircle and full circles. I hope we are together. Okay, and then if we go into the playing regulations, okay, first we're going to look at Article 8, which is the playing time, tied scores, and extra points. Extra period, sorry. So the game shall consist of 4 periods of 10 minutes. In yesterday's slides, you would have seen for professionals, it's 12 minutes per quarter. and then there's 10 minutes, and then there's 8 minutes. Okay, so this is very dependent. I mean, if you're gonna go play high school basketball, it could either be 8 minutes a quarter or 10. Usually it would be 10 minutes a quarter, so we'll focus on 10 minutes for this. Okay, and then there shall be a halftime interval of 15 minutes. If the score is tied at the end of the playing time of the fourth quarter, the game shall continue with as many extra periods of 5 minutes as is necessary to break the tie. If a foul is committed when or just before the game clock signal sounds for the end of a playing time, any eventual free throws shall be administered after the end of the playing time. Just before I continue, here you see halftime is 15 minutes long. However, a basketball game is broken down into 4 quarters. So you play 1 quarter, and then you get 2 to 3 minutes break between those quarters. Then you go to your second quarter, and then you have halftime. Then you have your third quarter, and then you have a 2 to 3 minute break, and then you have your final quarter. Just so that we remember that as well. Okay, if an extra period is required as a result of this free throw, then all fouls that are committed after the end of playing time shall be considered to have occurred during an interval of play, and the free throw shall be administered before the beginning of extra periods. Okay, the first period begins when the ball leaves the hands of the referee on the toss for the jump ball. So when you talk about jump ball, that's how basketball is started. So when you start a basketball match, you will basically have a player, 2 players in the center circle, obviously one from each team, and then the referee will basically toss the ball up into the air, which we call a jump ball, whereby the 2 athletes will then jump and try and win possession of the ball by knocking it back to their teammates. Okay, so every time a basketball game restarts, it will restart in that manner. Okay. All other periods begin when the ball is at the disposal of the player taking the throw in. And so when baskets are made, or when you score in basketball, they don't go back like in soccer. Is it soccer? Yes, like in soccer and rugby, or even in netball. They don't go back to the center circle. They start from the defending team's baseline. Okay, so just remember that as well. Then the game cannot begin if one of the teams is not on the playing court with 5 players ready to play. For all games, the first team named in the program, which is the home team, shall have the team bench and its own basket on the left side of the scorer's table facing the playing court. However, if the 2 teams agree, they may interchange the team benches and or baskets. Okay, so those are just simple additional sideline rules. Okay, and then before the first and third period, teams are entitled to warm up in the half of the playing court in which their opponent's basket is situated. So not on their own side, but in the opponent's side. Teams shall exchange baskets for the second half. In all extra periods, the team shall continue to play towards the same baskets as in the fourth period. Okay, and then a period, extra period, or game shall end when the game clock signal sounds for the end of the period. When the backboard is equipped with lighting around its perimeter, the lighting takes precedence over the game clock signal sound. Okay, so basketball is the way that they control basketball. I think we'll look at that also later, but is we usually have it works a lot around timing. So there's shot clocks, and then obviously your period indicators, which basically helps with also the time rules or time violations within basketball. The 5-second rules, 10 seconds to get over the halfway line. What is the other one? Okay, your shot clock, obviously, you've got a specific time from starting play at the baseline and crossing the halfway line. If you don't score or try and make a shot before the shot clock runs out, then you'll obviously lose possession of the ball as well. Sorry. Okay, and then the rules just surrounding the status of the ball or the ball itself. So at any time during the game, the ball can either be live or dead, similar to in any other team sports that uses a ball. Okay, a rugby ball can be live or it can be dead. Okay, so the ball becomes live when during the jump ball, the ball leaves the hands of the referee on the toss up. During a free throw, the ball is at the disposal of the free throw shooter. So as soon as the person shooting the free throw, which is a penalty shot, as soon as the ball leaves his hands, then the ball is live. During a throw in, the ball is at the disposal of the player taking the throw in. Okay, so as soon as the player releases the ball within the set time period, then the ball becomes live. And the ball is considered to be dead when any field goal or free throw is made. Okay, so that means when it's made, when you've actually scored a point, and then an official blows his whistle while the ball is live. So obviously your match officials, by the blow of a whistle, it can stop a game at any time, which means it makes the ball dead. Okay, it is apparent that the ball will not enter the basket on a free throw, which is to be followed by another free throw. A further penalty or a further penalty, the game clock signal sounds for the end of the period. The shot clock signal sounds while a team is in control of the ball. The ball in flight on a shot for a field goal is touched by a player from either team after. I'm sure that you've already seen maybe in movies or in the NBA. So if the shot clock or the period clock ends, but you took the shot before the buzzer goes, okay, so even if the ball is airborne and then the clock goes off, that shot will still be counted if it goes in. Okay, and then when an official blows his whistle, the game clock signal sounds for the end of the period, and then the shot clock signal sounds. However, these shot clocks and all the timers, we will still get into those so that you guys can just have a better understanding of where on what areas of the game they use timers as well. Then you'll understand that also a bit better. Okay. 10.4, the ball does not become dead and the goal counts is if made when. The ball is in flight on a shot for a field goal and an official blows his whistle. The game clock signal sounds for the end of the period. The shot clock sounds, signal sounds. The ball is in flight on a free throw and an official blows his whistle for any rule infraction other than by the free throw shooter. A player commits a foul on any opponent while the ball is in control of the opponent in the arc of shooting for a field goal and who finishes his shot with a continuous motion which started before the foul occurred. Okay, so when they talk about things like that, blowing, when the match officials blow their whistles or like in soccer, you've got advantage play. Okay, depending on the movement of the player before the call is made or after the call is made or who is in possession of the ball, an advantage might be played for the next few seconds, and then the referee can decide when to actually blow his whistle and call the game to stop. Anyways, okay, so this provision does not apply, and the goal shall not count if after an official blows his whistle, an entirely new act of shooting is made. During the continuous motion of a player in the act of shooting, the game clock signal sounds for an end of the period, or the shot clock signals sounds. Okay, so once again, this is just back onto what I said about when you should try and make a shot. Okay, it all depends on when the hooter sounds. Is it before it or is it after it, etc., etc. Okay, any ball that is airborne, not just the ball, but also the athlete himself, the player. If a player is airborne while taking a shot or making a whatever, and the sound goes off, it will still stay valid until contact is made with the floor or the board, the hoop, if that makes sense. Okay, then the jump ball, we've already touched on that a bit. So it occurs when an official tosses the ball in the center circle between any two opponents at the beginning of the first period. A held ball occurs when one or more players from opposing teams have one or both hands firmly on the ball so that neither player can gain control without undue roughness. Okay, so held ball is just when you get to the ball at the same time and then there's a tussle between you and your opponent to gain possession of the ball. So in the procedure for the jump ball, each jumper shall stand with both feet inside the half of the circle, the center circle nearest to his own basket, with one foot close to the center line. Okay, so just where I showed you on that diagram. Okay, and then teammates may not occupy adjacent positions around the circle. If an opponent wishes to occupy one of those positions, the official shall then toss the ball vertically upwards between the two opponents, higher than either of them can reach. Okay, so it needs to be a high ball, and usually you'll see the players that usually go for the jump balls is usually your taller players within the basketball team. The ball must be tapped with the hands of at least one of the jumpers after it reaches its highest point. Neither jumper shall leave his position until the ball has been legally tapped. Neither jumper may catch the ball or tap it more than twice until it has touched one of the non-jumpers or if it touched the floor. Okay. Anyways, is there any questions so far? I know these are a lot of rules. It just seems like a lot of rules, but when you do this, uh, always go on YouTube, or I don't know, like after you study this and go watch a basketball game on YouTube or on TV or wherever you can find something like that, and then it's easy to identify these things with what you are seeing on the screen. Okay, and
Okay.
like I said, obviously I will post videos for each skill that is required, that you are required to know as well.
Okay. Good day, sir. Before you move on, I got a question. Um, yeah. When it comes to the jump ball, now, once the referee throws the ball in, yeah, once the referee tosses the ball, now what happens if both the opponents catch the ball at the same time?
Okay, for a jump ball, it's required for you to tap. Okay, to tap the ball. Usually, because it's so I'll try and get a video just on the jump ball so that you can see. But most of the time, they're not going to try and catch the ball. Okay, because with a jump ball, when it's tossed up in the air, right, you're only allowed to compete for the ball once it's reached its peak height. So that pretty much means when it's on the turnaround and it's coming down. So what's going to happen is both players are going to try and jump towards the ball, and the aim is to tap the ball with your hand. So you're not going to catch it, you're tapping it with one hand to in the direction of your players or your side of the court. Okay, so most of the times they're not going to catch the ball. After a jump ball, they will tap it towards their teammates, which means there will always be one person that's gonna beat the other one in that contest. Okay, so you're not really allowed to catch the ball and then come down.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now I get it.
Okay, so the ball has to touch a teammate or the floor. Okay, so before you can actually play the ball. Okay, thanks for the question. Okay, and then if the ball is not tapped by at least one of the jumpers, the jump ball will be repeated. Okay, so it's unsuccessful, they will repeat it until it is successfully done. Okay, no part of a non-jumper's body may be on or over this the circle line, which is the cylinder, before the ball has been tapped. Sorry. Okay. Here they give you examples of jump ball situations. A jump ball situation occurs when a held ball is called, the ball goes out of bounds, and the officials are in doubt or disagree about which of the opponents last touched the ball. Okay, a double free throw violation occurs during an unsuccessful last or only free throw. Okay, so what they're saying here, the ball goes out of bounds and the officials are in doubt or disagree about which of the opponents last touched the ball. That is also where you have a different jump ball situation in a basketball game. Okay, so not only when you start the basketball match, but when there is something occurred during the game, during the match, okay, and the officials can't determine who was at fault or who touched the ball last before it went outbound, then it will usually be restarted again with a jump ball, not from the center line, but where the incident occurred. Okay, so when those are the other times that you can see a jump ball situation within a basketball game. Okay, and then they say a live ball lodges between the ring and the backboard. Is there a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
When there's a foul name and then a jump ball is being thrown where the incident occurred, do the same people who started the game get to stand there at the incident, or can it be anybody else?
It usually takes place between the people who are involved, the players involved in the.
Okay, sir.
So let's say let's say a player passed the. No, what example can I? Or let's say two players from opposing teams are charging towards a ball, a loose ball, right? And then they make contact with the ball at the same time, but the ball goes out. Just as an example. Okay, if the match officials can't determine who touched the ball last, okay, in order to get the throw in, then obviously they will determine that by those two players going for a jump ball. But in a start,
Okay, sir.
okay, thank you. But usually in the start of the matches, you'll usually see your tallest players that will compete for a jump ball. Okay, and then a live ball lodges between the ring and the backboard, except for between the free throws and after the last or only free throw, followed by a throw in, the throw in at the center line extended opposite the scores. A ball lodged in. I don't know if you've seen that or if you've played basketball before, but sometimes that can happen where you take a shot and then the ball actually gets stuck between the backboard and the hoop. Okay, so that actually happens quite often. And in those situations, it's up to the officials also to decide whether a jump ball should be taken. Okay, then the ball becomes dead when neither team has control of the ball nor is entitled to the ball. After cancellation of equal penalties against both teams, if there are no other foul penalties remaining for administration and neither team had control of the ball nor was entitled to the ball before the first foul or violation. So only in extreme cases like that, which does not happen that much, jump ball will also be required. All periods other than the first periods are to begin. I don't understand it. Anyways, okay, I see we have 5 minutes left, so I think we'll stop here for now. And then I quickly want to see if I have what. Okay, I don't know if you remember yesterday, we're gonna cover this part again, but just so long, seeing that we still have a bit of time, so I can already play this. So hopefully everyone will be able to see this. Oh, no.
We can't hear what the person is saying, sir.
Can you see the video?
Yes,
Yes, we
but
can.
no sound.
Can you hear now?
Nope.
No, sir, we can't hear.
I'm sorry, this isn't the one that I want to show. Did I not save that one? Um, Okay, never mind. That wasn't the right video that I wanted to show. It seems that I didn't add it to the watch list. Okay, it's fine. I'll find the video. It's just on the pivot foot so that you guys, before we go into the pivot foot, so that you can just look at the video, at least to see how it works. So it's all about when you receive the ball and what foot, either your right foot or your left foot touches the floor or the court first, then that becomes your pivot foot. So when we talk about pivot foot, it's the foot that you move around. Let's say, so you rotate it around. I think netball, yeah, with netball, you also do pivot foot. Okay, so when you catch the ball, you're not allowed to move. So in basketball, it's similar. Only difference in basketball, you're allowed to move. So if someone passes me the ball, the moment I catch the ball or make contact with the ball, the foot that is on the ground first, when I'm in control of the ball, that becomes your pivot foot. Okay, so if I catch the ball and then I continue to dribble and I run with it, as soon as you go stop with that ball again, you need to know what your pivot foot is, and then you only allowed to rotate around that pivot foot. And when you pass the ball, it needs to be off the pivot foot leading into your, obviously, the opposite foot. So it can become confusing. However, the match officials for basketball, they're very alert when it comes to that. There's people, even part of the table officials, they usually look at your movement, and then if you are doing any type of violations, considering your pivot foot. Okay, it sounds a bit simple. It makes the game a bit more difficult. I think it's a silly rule for basketball, but it is part of the rules of basketball. But in our next lesson, we'll finish the slide with the slide that we just did now, and then we'll move on to more of the violations and the terminologies in basketball, and then we'll basically look at that. In the meantime, I will find that video, and then I'll also just post the link on Moodle. And getting back to Moodle, I know I said yesterday I'll post the notes. However, I could not because once again, I don't know if my thing expired, but I only got access again this morning.